Hey everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, and you are watching the CD Junkie. Well, actually what you're doing is you're watching an episode, probably the only, or maybe the first of many episodes, called What's in the CD Junkie's Bag. Now this is of course an homage to the AMOEBA series on YouTube called What's in My Bag, where they have celebrities who are in the store go pick out some titles and they show them and they explain why that they're purchasing them. Now, of course, I'm far from a celebrity. I mean, look, just look at my subscriber count. That'll prove that. But I love the whole concept of this. But the most, really the magical thing that really inspired me to do this show is I actually got a What's in My bag from AMOEBA. Now, this show, this episode of the CD Junkie, you can just tell there's all these boxes and stuff behind me. I'm going through my CDs and pulling stuff I don't need, selling them on Discogs and stuff. But this show is not sponsored by AMOEBA, but almost everything in this episode was purchased at AMOEBA. Again, since I'm selling a bunch of stuff, practically everything I'm showing you in this video was not, I didn't pay for it. This is all store credit. So I traded in a bunch of stuff and I got a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to show you what I bought. Let's dive into this. But the first thing I'm going to show you, this is the Sparks 1975 to 1976 box set. And this contains the albums Indiscreet, Big Beat, and a bonus disc of non-album tracks. They had another one, which I think was, 74? It's called 74. That had Kimono My House and I think Propaganda. And that is also available. They did not have that in stock, so I was not able to get that. But this one I did get. I'm a big Sparks fan. Back when these albums were first coming out, 75, 76, I didn't quite get Sparks. I really got into Sparks about 1980 with the Want That Sucker album. And then I went backwards, and that's how I fell in love with all this early stuff. And that's what is in that set there. Let's go through. Another store that I went to during this trip was a store called Freak Beat, which is a great store. And of course, probably a lot of my Facebook friends, the LA people, that's like one of their favorite stores. But I got the Tumbleweed Connection, Elton John. This is the deluxe version. It actually has like a bunch of tracks on disc 2. So of course I had to get that. Speaking of Elton John, I got the single disc version of the self-titled. This does have bonus tracks on it. And let's continue with Elton John, Captain Fantastic. This is more, in fact, on the main disc, it lists 4 bonus tracks where if you buy this as a single disc, you only get 3 bonus tracks, or at least that's what's listed. I don't know if it actually has the bonus track. The bonus tracks here are Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, One Day at a Time, Philadelphia Freedom, and House of Cards. And I think the single disc version doesn't have House of Cards. But this I had to get, plus it's got another bonus disc on it. That was also at Freak Beat Records. And then I got Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. And this is the 3-disc version. It's 2 CDs and a DVD. And there's all those tracks there. Of course, classic. I've had these Elton John albums in my collection. Of course, when you grow up, in the 60s and the 70s like I did, you're really touched and moved by music by the artists of the day that were in the top 20, top 40. And of course, growing up, we were listening to our stuff, but also hearing a lot of Elton John on the radio. So that's how I grew to enjoy the music of Elton John, by hearing the singles and then eventually diving into the albums. I've had these albums on CD before and had to get rid of them when times were tough. And then I've got them back in my collection again and then had to get rid of them. And hopefully I don't have to get rid of them anymore. But here's another one here. This is the Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player. And this is another, this has bonus tracks on it as well. Empty Sky, which is his first album before the self-titled, I believe. This also has bonus tracks. Caribou is another Elton John that I picked up. And there you go there. And that has bonus material. Honky Chateau is another one that I picked up that has at least one bonus track. Yeah, it's got one bonus track. And that's a single disc. And now let's move from Elton John, and we're going to go into some of the odds and ends here. There's a power pop band called the Scruffs, and this is their debut called "Want to Meet the Scruffs." And I'm not sure. I think this might have bonus tracks. I'm not sure. This is the one on Revola, and that's a classic power pop album by a band that is not always remembered by the people who don't dig too deep into power pop. But if you love Raspberries and let's say Pez Band, things like that, you're going to love the Scruffs. Now here's a CD by Edwyn Collins. This was there's 6 songs on here, and these are singles that he released after the group Orange Juice broke up, because he was the leader and the main songwriter-singer of the group Orange Juice. And of course, he later had a hit with A Girl Like You in the 90s somewhere. But this was his earlier forays into the solo universe. And this has 6 tracks on it here. It's Japanese only. I have not seen this in literally years. So I was very happy. I was just thinking about that CD like 2 weeks ago and just wondered, what is the name of that? And I should have looked it up on Discogs, but I was happy with that. Let's dive into some punk stuff here. Now, the Lurkers, the classic lineup, had a couple albums out on the Beggar's Banquet label, and there's a box set that I'll eventually be showcasing in my Punk Shui series. But this has 2, after Arturo Basic put the band back together, this is an album or a CD that has 2 of their reunion albums. It was very cheap. I was very, very surprised to get that. Very happy too, because I do know that CD, and Arturo did a lot of great stuff. There's a band called Chelsea out of the UK, fronted by Gene October. Now, I bought the 2 CD best of, which is called Urban Kids. And this is a great introduction into the band. I prefer, just having all like the Captain Oi CDs or, the reissues with the bonus tracks and all that kind of stuff. But if you don't want to dive in and just buy their whole catalog, that is a great little 2 CD compilation. Here's a later album by Chelsea, Saturday Night, Sunday Morning. And good to have that in my collection. Of course, one of the biggest LA punk bands was a band called X. And I picked up 4 of the titles on CD. These are all the ones with remasters. Los Angeles, which is the debut. I'm not showing these in order. This is called Ain't Love Grand. And that has bonus tracks. These all have bonus tracks here. Wild Gift, another classic. Bonus tracks. And Under the Big Black Sun. With bonus tracks, and that's a great collection as well. Now let's continue with some punk. There's a band that I think a lot of people know, but really haven't heard too much by, except maybe Gary Gilmore's Eyes or something. But it's a band called The Adverts, and this is their debut album. And then Cast of Thousands is their second album. This has a bonus disc with stuff. I have to check this. This is a Japanese issue. I'm hoping that has bonus tracks. If it doesn't, well, on me. Let me see here. Here is a 2 CD set, Generation X, also known as Gen X. This is Billy Idol's first band, and actually his only band, I think, before. Actually, you know what? Remember when I showed you Chelsea? He was actually a member of Chelsea for like a single. And then he went off and he helped form Generation X. This is their first 2 albums in one little handy dandy set here. So I'm quite happy to have that. I already have their 3rd album, which is called Kiss Me Deadly. Then I have a 3 CD set, which is like a compilation, and it has a version of their 3rd album before they remixed it and moved it around and then called it Kiss Me Deadly. So that's a nice little thing. Here's one that I'm a little disappointed with, not for the music, but I got this confused with something else. I won a copy of the Split Ends compilation called Ends of an Era, because the version of Late Last Night on that disc is a different recording than what made the album and what makes all the compilations. Well, I picked up the Best of Split Ends, History Never Repeats, 30th Anniversary Edition, and it's in a slipcase. And this is a great compilation. It sounds incredible. It does. But I have everything on it. That Ends of an Era comp that I won on CD, that has the different version of Late Last Night. But this is a great collection, so if you want to pause this does cover all the later hits as well as some great early tracks. And so, of course, that's not punk. I should have told you I was moving away from the punk. But let's get into an artist here that many people may not think like, well, why is he collecting that? Well, because I like it. Here's Willie Nelson. Here's the essential. See, think about Willie Nelson is in the 70s, my parents got into Willie Nelson, probably more my mom. So, she was playing Stardust, and she was playing maybe an album or two before that, and an album or two after that. And of course, that's how I really came to know Willie Nelson's music. I sort of knew it from beforehand, but that's really when I got connected with it. So I have like the 2 CD version of Stardust, that's up here in the shelf somewhere. And he's always an artist that I've wanted to expand on. Now, I have several albums, but they're later albums. And I wanted to get, a good compilation. That's 2 CDs. And, of course, then I got this album here, which is called Phases and Stages. And the reason I got this is because there's a song on my favorite Willie Nelson album called I'm Falling in Love Again, or How Will I Know, or something. And the original version of that song is on this. The album that I'm talking about is called The Healing Hands of Time. And I'm going to make a video on it soon about it being my favorite Willie Nelson album. But that's my favorite song of that album. That's the song that made me fall in love with that album. And so this, I do enjoy the original version. I think I love the Healing Hands of Time version more. Probably hardcore Willie fans will say just the opposite. But I wanted to get the studio album that was part of. And then, of course, I got the classic Red-Headed Stranger. This is really, I think, that I became aware of Willie's, because this album, you saw it everywhere in the record stores, and it was really big. And then, of course, there's a collection of Willie too, that, single disc. I realized, after I'd purchased all this stuff, I thought, well, you know what? Probably all the stuff that's on this best of is on that, but that's okay. I'm not going to cry over it. Now let's dive into Prince. I am a Prince fan. Now, I'm not hardcore Prince fan. I mean, I love the stuff that I love. And I will delve into the stuff that I haven't heard as often, or that I'm not a big fan of, but that's going to be somewhere way down the line. What I wanted to pick up today were a few of the albums that I know that I love. And a couple of them were not in stock at AMOEBA or at Freakbeat, which is absolutely fine. The record store doesn't have to have everything that I want. But this is the Purple Rain, the 3 CD version, 3 CD and a DVD version. So that's got a lot of unreleased tracks from those sessions, plus B-sides, edits, things like that. And that's great. Another one of my liked or loved Prince albums is Controversy. Title track is just amazing. And of course, Sign of the Times, the remastered single disc version. If I wanted to spend $100, I could have got the 8 CD version, because I know the $100 is a good price for that. It was 8 CD and a DVD, I think, but I think that's a little bit too much. If there was a 2 CD version of this, or a 3 CD version of it, which there probably is, then I would get that. But I think 8 CDs, when I'm not a hardcore Prince fan, it's a little bit much. Let's move away from Prince. In fact, this is just the last couple titles I have. I have 2 more left. Lords of the New Church. This is a compilation. This is kind of like a super group of, it's got Stiv Bators from the Dead Boys. And then it's got some other guys, like I think maybe Brian James from the Damned. Let me see. I'm going to check here. For some reason, when I'm making this video, I totally forgot. Let me see here. So it's got Stiv Bators. It's got Brian James, of course. It's got Dave Tregunula from the Barracudas. And then it's got Nicky Turner. He's not from the Barracudas, is he? I kind of forget now. Oh, my gosh. But this is a compilation, remastered tracks. Now, the last CD I got, I'm not a Traffic fan, nor am I a big fan of Steve Winwood solo. I don't dislike either Traffic or Steve Winwood. I just never got into it. But I do know that many, many years ago, like we're talking 40 years ago, I heard a track on the radio by Jim Capaldi. and Jim Capaldi was the drummer of Traffic. Now, this was an album that was several albums deep into his solo career. And the song I heard was called Tonight You're Mine. And I loved it. Oh my gosh. It was late at night. I was listening to the radio. This was a new station that was started by J.J. Jackson after leaving MTV. And I don't know if this was just LA only or if it was a syndicated show. But the show was like adult contemporary, where they would play just great pop by classic artists. You would also hear the Eagles and Carole King and things like that. But then you'd also hear like the mellow side of new wave artists. Like, let's say you might hear True by Spandau Ballet, or, you know, something like that. So you were hearing this more mellow, I mean, you know, there were some rocking songs, but more pop, more mellow, of just a wide variety. I remember hearing Van Morrison songs from the album Inarticulate Speech of the Heart, and I love those songs as well. And there was just so much great stuff on the station. It didn't last that long, and I don't remember the call letters or the name of the station, but it was kind of like the equivalent, I guess the rock equivalent of like a smooth jazz. You know, it's interesting because the station introduced me, or it made me go, okay, you can put Space Age Love Song by Flock of Seagulls right next to Jim Capaldi, Tonight You're Mine, right next to a Van Morrison song, right next to Eagles, Hotel California, or Ticket to the Limit, or whatever, and it's all going to mix together perfectly. It doesn't matter if they are the exact same genre. The thing is they have a certain mood, and Tonight You're Mine is a song. Now, I bought this months ago, just a few months ago, on the internet, through Discogs, through eBay, and it cost me a pretty penny. And it turned out that the guy just basically sent me a CDR of his version of this. And it was, I got my money back, no problem. But I was very happy to pick up the original Wounded Bird version of Fierce Heart by Jim Capaldi, just for the song Tonight You're Mine. But that's it. I appreciate you watching this video and find out what's in the CD Junkie's bag. Of course, I love the fact I was able to buy one of these. I wanted to display it rather than carry things around in it. But I got to finish ripping all the CDs that I got now. And also, I went with my friends Gary and John today. We had a great time. We were able to go to AMOEBA, and then go to Tommy's, and then go to Freak Beat Records. And then we went... I think there was did we go to a third record store or fourth? I know that we went to Record Safari, but I was so worn out from 2 days of constantly walking. I said, you know what, I'm going to sit this out because they don't have a lot of CDs. But if you're ever in the area in LA, go to Record Safari because they have a great vinyl collection. But again, I don't buy vinyl, but I am telling you that it's a highly recommended store. Anyway, that's it. That's what is in the CD Junkie's bag. I appreciate you watching this video. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Ring that bell for future notifications. And until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.